G'day Beaks and Beaks to Bee. Are you curious about learning more about beekeeping? I have been a beekeeper for over 55 years and rearing queen bees since the 1980s.
When I met Alan through my local beekeeping club, I knew nothing about bees.
Right, this particular hive, as with all the hives in this particular apiary, we're going into the brood chamber, checking for disease and also lifting frames of sealed brood to keep the bee numbers up. So we've got high numbers of bees for bringing in nectar. The idea is, as we check each frame for brood, the months are on the back that they'll put in the brood chamber, so that's irrespective depending on how they're going. This was a foundation that was put in 4 weeks ago, so it's total brood. So we'll put that up even though it's only been in the brood chamber once, if it needs to be to make up the 4 frames that we're going to put up in the honey super above the excluder. These are the 4 frames here that we've picked out. They're going to be exchanged for the brood frames that's in the brood chamber.
So with this frame, like with every frame you pull out of the brood chamber, a natural thing should be to scan for any pinholes. So by pinholes we mean, say, some sealed brood, and in the centre will be a pinhole, and that has been where a bee has actually noticed that brood has not hatched, and they've started to tear open the capping to find out what's wrong. If you see that, you must go in and investigate. If you find a coffee-coloured, sticky, ropey substance, it's pretty likely you've got some form of foul brood, A.F.B, and that's a serious cause for concern. If you open it up to find a pearly white larvae, it's simply a grub that's being that is incubating. So on this next frame of brood we've investigated, we have looked over and noticed 2 little pinholes. That's what you're looking for. There's a pinhole in that cell and a pinhole in that cell. Now, as I open the capping, I have a few choices of what I could see. Let's find out whether it's a cause for concern or not. Oh, and we see a pearly white grub. That is healthy brood. So therefore it's probably just getting capped over in the last few minutes. You notice it was literally a pinhole. If you follow my tool over this way, you'll find one that's slightly bigger, still a cause for concern. Check it out. Same thing again, simply one that was about to be capped. Over here, you'll also notice this bulbous cell. That is currently a play cell, but what we'll do is we'll tear that down and we find that it's empty. So therefore it was just a play cell. It's a queen cell without an egg, therefore it wasn't going to do anything in its current state. However, it is possible for an egg to be transferred into it. So we simply destroy that and any other play cells we find.
Right, turn her over. One on the other side there too. Down the bottom.
Over. This one here, we can see it looks slightly fresher and it's a bit more elongated. So we'll see there's an egg in there. And there's an egg. If you look very closely at the tip of my hive tool, you'll see an egg placed in there. So that's the kind of thing that can obviously turn into a queen cell and cause dramas with your current queen.
Your little stick there, just see the edge of it there, yeah. Yep, see the edge, yep. Stop.
So here's a reminder on how to arrange or rearrange your brood super when you are making brood lifts. You want to have some sealed brood, a frame of mostly sealed brood on the outside, because once they're sealed, there's no more work for them to do and they don't require as much warmth as eggs. Second and third in, we will place our foundation or stickies, depending on what we have available. So there we've got a foundation second and a sticky third. And then once I'm finished arranging this, in the center here, I will place my eggs or semi-sealed brood or hatchlings, and then sticky foundation, and then another sealed brood. And that's the way your brood super should look when you've made those brood lifts.
Finishing the super, all the frames should be tied together, with the excess space on the outside walls.
Now, something that's quite often overlooked is that if I was to get a frame out of the bottom and place her into the middle super, if I don't have my queen caged, I've got to shake all these bees off and place them in the middle super. However, we have found the queen, and therefore these bees keep doing what they're doing on the frame as I place it into the middle super as a brood. Minimal disruption.
Yeah, just mark those frames.
Yes, which one have you got?
Scratch them and mark them. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, if there's one thing that you don't want to get wrong or don't want to forget when you do brood lifts, is that in 5 to 7 days time, come back and check the frames you lifted for rogue queen cells. To make it easy, we mark those frames with a B, which stands for brood. And what we do is have a look and see whether or not there are any rogue queen cells on those frames, and we destroy them.
Action.
And then we have our rearranged brood super, and in the brood super we'll mark the month and the year in which those new brood frames were placed. So when we come back in the future, we can tell the progress of those new frames. And in the brood super, we squeeze all our frames together. This helps keep warmth in and also reduces the chance of drone comb being built, because there isn't as much room for that comb to be built through. We found this highly successful in keeping nice tight brood supers to get lots and lots of bees.
Also, it reduces the amount of burr comb that can be drawn between your frames. When looking at your brood frames, never knock the first queen cell on the head. See, there's a stubby seal queen cell, because that may be the only queen cell in the hive. So you never knock that on the head until such times you either see the queen or you see eggs in the hive. In this particular hive, on the next frame, we now see the queen. Ooh, bloody hell.
Stuck on your camera. Oh, we need smoke.
Where'd she go? There she's underneath there. You can see the queen there, she's marked, and so it makes it that much easier for when you're looking for the queen in your hive. We're back at the bee site where we check the frames for disease and also brood lifts, and we're now going to recheck the brood lifts 7 days later for rogue queen cells and destroy. Here you see the bees that have been marked on top of each frame for the ones that we've got to check. Just shake the bees out in the front there, or on top. The bees are shook off so that it's easier to see any rogue queen cells that may be developing. This particular frame is a frame of foundation that we placed in, and you can see that they're starting to draw comb above where the top of the foundation finished. That is not comb that the bees have been chewing out.
So once you have removed the frame from the box, you can then shake your bees inside, because you have enough room to not cause any harm to the bees. See there's one here, possibly be a cell starter, and we check it, and nothing inside, so we call it a play cell. And to complete the process, we make sure that in the honey supers, that we have the frames equally spaced, so that way when the brood hatches and they fill those cells with honey, you have nice proud cappings, and that helps you out in the honey room, so you can extract in one nice clean arc, rather than having to scratch all your frames. So here we can see a cell that is considerably larger than the play cells have been destroying. So if we peel it back and check, you can see a heap of royal jelly, and in that royal jelly is a little larvae, which is obviously going to become, in this instance, a rogue queen. So we destroy that cell. So we kill this rogue queen cell to ensure that she doesn't hatch and go down and fight with our current queen, likely resulting in the death of the older queen. So here's a frame that we lifted because it had a lot of pollen in it, as well as sealed brood. And now what we've noticed is that the pollen is being used up and replaced with honey, and as the brood is hatching, those cells are also being replaced with honey. So therefore, if you lift pollen from below the excluder to above the excluder, they will use it as a priority, which will help clear your frame up to increase honey production.